Good morning, Walter Parks here. Coming to you on WPVM LP Asheville, North Carolina 103.7 on your dial and globally at WPVMFM.org. Also via Facebook and YouTube and all those channels. Thank you for joining me. Back here in St. Louis, Missouri, from being framed on both sides of the Sundays, or both of the Sundays, since both of the Sundays. Boy, this is not starting out well. Since last Sunday, I have driven from St. Louis to New York City, wherein I worked a couple of days. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And driven back, because I prefer driving to flying right now. Well, I prefer it to flying at any time. But sneezing on the air. That's okay. That's what people do. Forever archived. How Walter Parks sneezes, as if anybody cares. So happy to be with you this early in the morning. This is a song that Alan Lomax archived during his blues project. Well, it's early in the morning when I rise, Lordy Mama. You know I have a misery burning in my right side. Yeah. It's early in the morning when I rise, Lordy Mama. You know I am a misery burning in my right side. Well, well, you should never told her dirty lie. Well, the eagle on the down the corner is gonna rise and fly. Well, you should never told her dirty lie, Lordy Mama. The eagle on the top of the corner is gonna rise and fly. Well, rocks and gravel to make a solid road, Lordy Mama. Takes rocks and gravel to make a solid road, Lordy Mama. Takes rocks and gravel to make a solid road. Yeah. Takes a good looking woman to make a good looking well. Oh, Whew. I love playing that song. It's got a particular intensity when I'm playing with the group. Got a new group that I put together called the Unlawful Assembly, and it's myself and Stephen Williams on drums, Ada Dyer on vocals, Paul Frazier on the bass, Michael Bellar on the Hammond B3 organ, and we just finished up our recording and actually did a video of how we get her done, so to speak, at Atomic Sound in Brooklyn, and it was great. I haven't slept properly in a whole week, but I really believe that I have to keep going. It's not I have to keep going. What does that mean? That means that the times are challenging. There's I think it would probably be preferred that people not move around, I'm doing it safely as possible. There are occasional slip ups, but I my personal feeling about it is I try to make the decisions when I really feel like I have an option of just staying put and bringing down the odds of spreading the virus and so on. Yeah, yeah, we've got vaccines and everything, but I also still believe that the wheels of all of this need to keep turning. I mean, we've got to do little bits and dribs and drabs. Or at least this is me. I'm not saying you have to do anything. I believe that m- however inconvenient it might be, and in this case, just driving to New York to get 2 or 3 days of work done, that's what I have to do. And that is important because a year from now, we're going to go, whoa, well, look at all this. We've got all these videos to present to people, and concerts will be booked because of this. People will be happy because of the concerts. People will be inspired. People will know more about historic American music. And it will all be because during these COVID times, myself and the band would sneak out every now and then and do a session here or there, much to our inconvenience. And many of them got canceled because at certain times we felt like it is absolutely not safe to do this. But we're never going to get it built if we just stay at home. And so that's been how I've done it. And y'all might think that's irresponsible. Well, in a certain way it is, but on the other hand, like I said, you pull back 2 years from now, whatever, we're going to go, wow, this is amazing. How did this happen? Well, it happened because we snuck out and did it. Anyway, enough of that. But that was one of the songs in that study of work, if you will. Come to find out, that was also a version of that was performed by a group called the Graham Bond Organization during the '60s, and they were a rock band from England, and Ginger Baker of Cream was their drummer. So you could probably look that up. Early in the Morning by the Graham Bond Organization. I don't particularly care for their version. It's not in any way allegiant or pays any honor to the original version. And what was the original version? The original version, as Alan Lomax recorded it, was the sound of a battalion, essentially, of black prisoners from Parchman Farm Prison in Mississippi. And their job was to hit a piece of railroad track with big hammers in time. They all had to hit it at the same time, otherwise the rail won't move. But to keep them in time, they would sing this song. And so you can really tell how this was one of those that gave them the time to recover the hammer, put it back up on their shoulders, and throw it back down. So started retuning my guitar, so it wasn't quite right. But anyway, you get the idea. And what I'm told is that if you had a singer, a leader, or whatever who could orchestrate the the rhythm and the harmony of 30 to 50 men, that person, that conductor, if you will, was a different type of conductor. It was a musical conductor. Was treated favorably in the prison because they knew that if we kept this guy happy, he's going to be able to get us that railroad track laid a lot quicker. So just little odd tidbits from that time period. I feel like staying on this old Taylor. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but this is, I'm going to tune it up to Richie Havens' tuning. Richie Havens, he played on another guitar that I have here, but I like to keep this Taylor in the funny, funky tunings because when I bought this guitar at Rudy's Music in New York in about 1991, it had really heavy strings on it, and it is always liked heavy strings, and so what does that mean? Is that the neck is strong enough to tolerate the tension of that. So if I put heavy strings on it and then tune them down a little bit for those low notes that you just heard. I mean, that was tuned down to a low B for y'all guitar players. The neck just doesn't go anywhere. It can tolerate all kind of fluctuations. So it's a beautiful sounding guitar, and I like that it kind of looks like a classical instrument. Gotta remember this tuning. Oh, anyway, yeah, I was gonna say when I would be on the road with Richie Havens, I played with him for 10 years or so. When we would have a little time to kill, and once we had rehearsed before a show, I would just pick up his guitars and start noodling around and fiddling with them, and would come up with different songs, and here's one such. What happens on a guitar is that, well, I want to explain one thing. A lot of times people ask me, why do you need so many guitars? Why do you? Well, they all do different things. It's like asking a chef, why do you need so many knives? Why do you need so many tools in the kitchen? They all have their own purpose. There's, for instance, what I might do on this guitar. I don't know if you can see it. I'm sure you can. This guy is a jazz guitar from the 50s. And there are things that sound just perfect on that. And I will bring that out in a second. That guitar kind of likes to play soul music and R&B, even though it's originally intended to be a jazz guitar. But that's the beauty about guitars. What they might have marketed a guitar at originally, and the way the public ended up using it would be two different things, and no different than the way we're using technology now. Anyway. with the sound. I just can't get through this song today. I'm just really tired, folks. And woo. I'm going to change gears. Play some R&B. So in love with you, whatever you want me to do is all right with me. You make me feel so brand new. I want to spend my life with you. Oh, since we've been together, loving you well, it's all right with me. Let's stay together, loving you well. Well, the times are good, the bad, all the happy, I'll say. When the times are good or bad, all the happy, I'll say. together. Oh, now let's stay together. Oh, I got to keep it together, even though I'm forgetting my clothes. Whether times are good or bad, or they're happy or sad. Why some people break up to turn around and make up. I just can't see how you never do that to me. With your darling, loving you is all I need. Oh, let's stay together. Oh, now let's stay together. Ooh, whether times are good or bad, or they're happy or sad, or good or bad, or they're happy or sad. Oh, whether times are good or bad, happy or sad. That went a little better. You know, I did something that I shouldn't have done there, and I tripped up on that song a couple of weeks ago, the one that I tried to play a second ago, and I just went for it thinking that it could be it could just work itself out. You know, that maybe a new day would mean um, that my muscle memory would get me through it. And you know what, I don't really believe in muscle memory. I mean, it just seems like an excuse for me. There's times when, for whatever reason, all the stimuli, and maybe that's what muscle memory is. It's just the way we process everything. It just has forgotten something, and I knew better than to go for that. And that reliance on magic is something that I've seen other performers do, and it is what I do when I'm essentially at my worst. And when I say at my worst is when I'm tired and I'm not kind of thinking straight. What happens is sometimes the ego can take over, and that's really what was going on. It was like, ah, man, I'm gonna make it through this. I'm gonna make it. It's gonna just my fingers are gonna work. No, the fingers are not gonna work it. I need to figure out why I'm missing that, and sometimes I have to just go back into my book. And this is just how it is with me. I have to write everything down, and I'm this is the song, the Trent Reznor song I did last week, hurt because these little intricacies lose me. I lose them or whatever. But to rely on magic is to say that you have some sort of special ability or some sort of special connection. And we may well have that. But to actually think that you can tap into it is a little bit, it's a little bit conceited. And I've seen people that I knew very well, and we'd drive up to traffic lights and wave their hand at the light, thinking that it was going to switch, just because most of the time it does. Do we do we really think we're bigger than life in that sense? I I just I speak a lot about the pitfalls of 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 inspiration and how there's a thin line between inspiration and creativity and delusions of grandeur. And you watched me experience a little bit of delusions of grandeur right there. And I'm not saying this to beat myself up or whatever. I'm I made a mistake, so I'm sharing with you how that happened. And it happened because I egotistically said I can make it through this moment, and in fact I didn't. And I'm all right with it. I won't. I will never do that in a performance. But let's play some other things that I know, and I hope you enjoy them. Coming to you on WPVM LP FM, Asheville, North Carolina, 103.7, and on your dial, and globally on the internet at WPVMFM.org. And this is a show that I call Hymns and Hollers, and I try to pull a little bit of old Northern European hymns and hollers from the homesteaders of Southeast Georgia and Northeast Florida. So I'm going to do a holler at this point. Try to get a little bit of that low end out of it. I don't want to take too much low end because it's... Ooh, that's better. I picked up the 175 today because I was missing it. I haven't had this on the road with me. And it's a great acoustic guitar in addition to an electric guitar. But still lots of lows. I'm coming home again, bound to see my kid, but I don't know who'll be waiting by and by. I pray they let me in, 'cause I'm tired of wandering. I don't know if I'll make it by and by. Yo, I don't know if I'll make it by and by. Though I'm coming home again, and I'm done traveling. Though I don't know if I'll make it by and by. Oh, I don't know if I'll make it by and by. No, I don't know if I'll make it by and by. It's a lovely song that comes from the Okefenokee Swamp. The melody of the yodel is strict Okefenokee, and the lyrics are my own. Created from the misinterpretation of a Georgia accent of a young man who sang that on the Library of Congress tapes. I listened to it in the very beginning part of my research on the Okefenokee, and I was pretty sure of where they were going with it lyrically, but after years of analyzing it, I realized I was a little off on what they were singing about. So then I just thought, okay, I'm just going to keep this song as my own, and because the coming home bit, the title, the coming home holler, came from the Okefenokee. That was actually used. I don't know. This is an example of how assumptions in research can be very dangerous. In the Library of Congress archive, that melody is described as the coming home holler. Therefore, I thought naturally that the lyrics probably pertain to that. So I put that template in my head when I listened to it. In fact, the lyrics turned out to be, after really years of scrutiny. And why? Because it was just a thick Georgia accent, and I had to slow the tape down and put it through all kind of sonic trickery to really figure out what the guy was singing. And he was singing about wanting to get through life his own way, and without the interference of family, friends, society, governments, and so on, kind of much the way people are still talking these days in certain parts. But it was very Okefenokee. I'm going to my death, and no one's on my path, but it ain't nobody's business but mine. You could kind of see where that's sort of coming home-esque. Well, I thought upon my faults, and I'm going to break till I get strong, but it ain't nobody's business but mine. The exact same melody, but a very different sentiment. So anyway, I approached my research with an assumption, and in time I would find that I was wrong. And so I thought, well, this is a great lyric, coming home holler. I'm coming home at last, and I'm coming home again. I'm bound to see my kin. I don't know if I'll make it by and by. And I just realized, well, maybe that was just me. That was me wanting to have those lyrics be a certain way. So I just held on to it. Good morning. It's Walter Parks coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm 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 not at my sharpest best this morning because I'm extremely tired. I haven't had proper sleep in a week, but it's okay. I want you to I want you to see all sides of this, and sometimes as we well know in entertainment, the show must go on. And I can tell you the famous people that I've played with over the years, and of course the many concerts that I've done, I might get up there and give my 100% best, but I know that I'm not in top shape. And how is that any different than any of us? A doctor or a lawyer who has to present a case. If you're an accountant, you might have stayed out late the night before, and you still have to go in and push those numbers. I'm not saying that that my problems and my challenges are exclusive, but I am just saying that the show must go on. And speaking of that, let's play a little Sunday morning gospel. Here's one that I feverishly studied a version of from Mahalia Jackson, and I love playing this song. Now, when I say I studied it, I want to share with you what fascinates me about gospel music. The organ players, most I think it's safe to say that as far as instrumentation goes in gospel music, black gospel music, the Hammond B3 organ is an integral part, if not the most important instrument in that. Nowadays they have bass players with 14 strings and the whole thing, but from the 30s, late 30s on, it's been the Hammond B3 organ. And I've kind of studied the way they approached chords and the way they bought time between chords. So if you're sitting on a C, for instance, that kind of thing, I'm putting a little country thing into it, but if, let's say the organ player is playing the C and the singer's on, and the drummer's going, kind of caressing the ride cymbal, and the bass player might be going. The organ player's sitting there. The organ player's not going to just stay on that C. They're going to go, oh yeah, and he went up to the rock. And it just kind of whips people into a frenzy with that intensity. And so there's all kind of tricks in gospel music to kind of get you from chord to chord. And I've been fascinated by this stuff. And something like what I just played there, that's something that on the Hammond B3 organ is a common sound. Let's see if I can get some tremolo and you'll. Oh, I went down to the water. But it sounds different because it's on an organ. But can you hear the similarities between that and a rock riff? So, for instance, that came from the organ. That kind of those harmonic choices came from the gospel organ and migrated to rock music. And the British bands were the first to pick up on it because I think it's because they didn't have the hang-ups about listening to, first, black music, and secondly, adapting it into their style. But anyway, here's one of my favorites called Precious Lord. precious Lord. Take my hand, lead me on. Let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me on. When my way free, precious Lord, legally, when my life is almost gone, guide my feet, take my hand. Oh, precious Lord, help me understand. Take my hand, says Lord, and lead me on. Precious Lord, I love the organ players in that old gospel music. They teach me how to play guitar, and I love that about music. You can learn from other instruments. Richie Havens used to tell me that Carlos Santana was really a trumpet player, and when you first hear that, you go, "What the hell is he talking about?" And he said, "No, listen to his leads, listen to his solos. He has this trumpet type feel, and sure enough, um, it's there if you just listen to it that way." And come to find out, Richie, or at least used to tell me that he knew Carlos Santana pretty well, and he said Carlos's dad was a trumpet player down in Mexico, and something like that. But anyway, fascinating stuff. I love how you can transfer knowledge and feelings and emotion from one genre, one instrument, and sort of adapt it, or just you can hitch a ride on it, put it that way. And I'll tell you, my this project that I'm doing with Stephen Williams, the Unlawful Assembly, it's been. I think it's going to be an important project. I mean, I hope it is, of course. I mean, I'm involved in it. I want to put my time into something that's worthwhile. But in the course of trying to make sure we're all okay and we're on point ideologically with this, what we're doing is we're combining hymns that were sung by Europeans, and we're converging that with music that was sung by slaves and work songs that were sung by prisoners. And then again, we go back to hollering that was done by these white homesteaders and who might not have always been kind to black folk. And 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 then we'll go back to a hymn that was no doubt sung by in churches by the masters at the time, and everybody thought they had their own particular real relationship with their creator. And whereas this is not the overarching mission of the Unlawful Assembly to show these concurrent relationships with the creator, that's not really where we're coming from. It is, the situation is kind of similar to where we are today in this country. We've got, ostensibly, we must unite under this one country. And the promise or the hope is that we're going to be better because of it. I'll tell you, if the manure ever hit the fan, I would like to have on my side somebody who knows how to survive. I would like to think that I have treated them well, even though they've had hard, tough times, and that there has been, they know that they have been treated well and kindly, and that there has been an attempt to take them from those hard times. Because if they know how to survive in those hard times, as for instance, the Latin American folk do, who walk across the desert for weeks and then they get to the United States. And I know people who have done that, and they have survived out there in the desert for weeks, sometimes months, and they make it to the U.S. And I think, geez, all right. I personally have an issue with coming into a country illegally, but you did it, and I like you. You're talented. You're a hard worker. I want you on my side, you know? Whenever there's a opportunity for me to make your life easy, you're here. I'm going to make your life as easy as I possibly can. I'm going to try to help you. It's freaking survival for me. Not only is it a good thing to do, but so why aren't we, put it this way, when there's a chance, and there is daily for us, to make somebody else's life easy, regardless of your causes. And here's what I really, really have seen lately. Somebody might believe strongly in, well, Black Lives Matter, let's say that. But yet, when there's an opportunity to make the life easy of a Mexican American who's just trying to make a living, they might not take that opportunity. They might say, no, I'm not going to help that guy. But I'm a Black Lives Matter guy. You know, come on. There are opportunities every day for us to play a little bit of God. And I think that's where we shine the most. And we have to do whatever version of that we can. So if that means supporting the guy who has a little street hot dog stand or something like that, you can be sure that guy's not had an easy life. And you can be sure that he has to sell a lot of hot dogs to pay the rent for that thing. Even though he's not paying a rent in a corporate office complex, he is not he's not getting away with something there. His path has had some overhead in it. If you think for a moment that that guy who runs the hot dog stand, I'm just using that as a as an archetype, has essentially no overhead, you're a fool. What he has had to do to get to that point where he has that hot dog stand has been overhead. It's just not the kind of overhead that we think of, in that he doesn't have a diploma on the wall and wear khaki pants and penny loafers to work. You know, and pay such and such per square foot for commercial office space. Anyway, we want survivors on our side. We want them on our side. It has been in the music that I'm interested in for 100 years. Precious Lord, Wade in the Water, Amazing Grace, the story of survival. But the point is, and the question is, what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do about it right now? And so what Stephen Williams and I are trying to do is to just say we are together and show examples of how we can cooperate. Some of you may be thinking, what is this guy talking about? I don't have issues with other cultures and other races. Well, I can tell you that people still do. We are not beyond that. And Stephen said to me, he said, Walter, and this is one of the really meaningful moments of this last week. He said, Walter, we played a gig down in Florida somewhere in a small club, and you were explaining to a room full of white people some aspect of black history. And you were doing it in such a way that didn't make anybody uncomfortable. And you were doing it in such a way that wasn't preaching. You were not telling them what they needed to think. You were just telling them about an aspect of history. And people were learning from that. And he said, as a black man, that meant so much to me. And I thought, that is what this group is about. Communication. And this kind of communication and collaboration and harmony has heretofore been a little bit taboo at times. Hence the name Unlawful Assembly. So I'm excited to share with you images, videos, and all of that stuff is coming up soon. You've been listening to me on WPVM LP, Asheville, North Carolina, 103.7, and WPVMFM.org. I'm also happy to be broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. And after the radio hour passes, we'll switch over to the other social media, and I'll keep playing. I'm in the mood to keep playing. I tripped up a little earlier today, but I'm waking up, and I want to keep playing for you. And maybe Margot can put up some imagery or at least the website for the Unlawful Assembly. And I'm working on some videos this week. I'm really, really excited about it. But we've taken this old spiritual music, some of it slave in nature, some of it Christian in nature, and some of it an amalgam of all of that. And when I say Christian in nature, I mean European. So there's two sides of the issues, in a sense, of the story, and show how it comes together. It's a fascinating project, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Play one of mine here. lighter side, there's a story about Southern musicians and Northern musicians coming together, and the Northern musicians being a little afraid of Southern cooking. And one guy walks into the restaurant, one of my Northern friends, he says, "I'd like to try grits for the first time, but please serve them to me without butter." And the waiter says, they gon' be butter. I'm salivating, I'm a Pavlov's man. Lube up the iron with the aerosol. I smell the bacon and the hot pecans. I do hope that I don't embarrass y'all. I get the feeling that this place is under your cosmopolitan suspicion. You very nearly made a fatal blunder. You are the grits with butter missing. They gon' be butter people where y'all from. That's just the way this kind of food gon' come. They gon' be waffles when you come into the house. They gon' be butter when you come down south. Scout with the menu, usually laminate for anything on it, subtle or insipid. Look how the pictures on it are behave. They gon' be smothered in lipids. They gon' be butter people where y'all from. That's just the way this kind of food gon' come. They gon' be waffles when you come into the house. They gon' be butter when you come down south. Come on. They gon' be butter people where y'all from. That's just the way this kind of food gon' come. They gon' be waffles when you come into the house. They gon' be butter when you come down south. Silly little song about cohabitating, on the lighter side of things. A guy who's all obsessed with this diet comes into the Waffle House and wants them to yield to him and change the way they do things just for him. And, to a certain extent, you just can't do it. And one thing I do like about the European mentality, to generalize here, it's like Americans just think we can kind of throw money at something and it's going to change somebody's behavior. That doesn't really work so well in certain parts of the world. And that's what I've always liked about my... I'm just getting ready to go down a rabbit hole. But anyway, I speak French pretty good. And the French people just... They don't necessarily change their behavior just because you offer them more money, and they just do it the way they want to do it. I remember being traveling over there in France at one point, and I was not feeling too well. I was in the Pyrenees Mountains, and I had gone to a little town called Foix, Foix, because my lineage, uh, my my grandmother's side, she was a Gaston, and that Gaston is a big name in the Carolinas. But the Gaston family were Huguenots who were persecuted by the Catholics and eventually made their way to this continent. But they came from, or at least the Gaston line came from Foix in the Pyrenees. So I thought I'd take a pilgrimage to Foix at one point. I was studying Buddhism for a while. I'd spent a whole summer in a place called um, Plum Village in studying from Thich Nhat Hanh in near Bordeaux, France. And then I took after my studies, I took a train down to the Pyrenees, and I was all prepared for this sort of energy transformation, kind of what happened to me earlier with the song. I just knew there was going to be some magic in the town of Foix, and I just knew that the magic would prevail on this guitar here when I tried to play uh, soft shoe. Well, there wasn't any magic on soft shoe, and there wasn't any magic in Foix. I had come all that darn way to find myself and I had this preconception that I was going to be walking these streets and have this feeling that I had been here before. It just it was all of these preconceptions were just ridiculous. I didn't feel anything. It just felt like another French town. And I started feeling what I did feel was I started feeling ill. And I maybe that was a sign that some really bad things happened there, and probably did, since the French got the Gastons got the heck out of there. But at one point, I was just starting to feel so sick, and the only thing on the menu was red meat, of course. And in when I say red meat in France, that's truly red meat. I mean, it's the I don't even think they bother to cook the stuff. But anyway, I made a special request. My food came out, was served to me, and then it's just so red. It was just it was alive, and I sent it back to the kitchen, and I said, could you please cook it some more? You would have thought I had ignited World War III. The chef comes out and sits with me, and in French, he basically asked me, "What are you thinking, sir?" Essentially, what has happened to your mind? In fact, I did have a fever, but I didn't, fever or not, I don't like my meat rare. I just don't. Whatever that makes me, if I'm proletariat, if I'm not sophisticated, I'm sure that's what that makes me. But I don't like red meat at all. And if I have to eat it, I want it cooked. So he was not willing to make any changes in his meal. Even if I offered to pay him more money, I said, "Look, I'll pay you double. Just please cook this more for me. It's the only way I can eat it." He would not do it. I remember one time coming to a coffee house before I lived in St. Louis, and there was a coffee house that I that I was drawn to or told to go to called Sump. And I go in there, and it's one of these boutique coffee maker, bespoke kind of places. The guy had a long beard, and I said I would like what I always like is I'd like a double shot of espresso with a little hot water, and maybe a little dabble of cream. And he goes, I don't do that. And my immediate thought was, I'm just going to turn on my heels and walk out of this place. I'm the customer. I'm in charge. I've got the money. You need to do what I want. And then I thought, wait a minute. I'm being a jerk. Just this guy has, I've been told to come to this business. Just trust him. Let him do his thing. And he was very calm about it. His name is Scott. He actually owns some. And at that time, he had just opened, so he was the only employee. I trusted them. And he made something that was a version of what the Cubans call a cortadito, I think, which is basically espresso, but cut with milk. Maybe more milk than I like. But it was gloriously the best cup of coffee I've ever had. And it happened because I didn't turn on my heels and walk out of there with that sort of American mentality of I've got the money, I'm in control, you are my servant. But I wanted, there was that moment, I'm not making light of this, but there was that moment of like, my foot was on his knee, you know, he was serving me. My knee, no, what's the expression? My knee was on his neck. And you know, and my knee was on his neck because my knee could be on his neck. Therefore, I put it there. And I wanted him to do what I wanted him to do because I was the customer. And we don't always have to exercise that power. That's what I'm saying. That's my point in this whole broadcast. I have found that it makes me feel good when I have a power and I don't use it. And I think the black belt guys understand that. The martial arts guys understand it. They don't even tell you if they're in a situation, they're not saying, "Look, I'm a black belt. This is going to be you're going to be finished if we start this." They just hold it back. They just hold it back. But anyway, you get where I'm going. These are moments in everyday life to play God, if you will, and to let the other guy demonstrate his passion. Let the hot dog stand do what he wants to do. Let him be a part of your community. I saw a wonderful sign in Dayton, Ohio yesterday. I love this sign. It was on a little pavilion in the middle of town. And on the side of the pavilion, it said, bringing community together one concert at a time. And I sent the picture to Margot, and Margot says, "Oh, that's a Levitt Pavilion." And apparently the Levitt Foundation has done this in different towns and cities and communities across the country. I didn't know. What a wonderful thing. And I sent it to the mayor here in the area I live in near St. Louis, and I didn't hear back from her, but I hope I haven't insulted her. But it was inspiring to me. One concert at a time, bringing communities together. I'm going to continue on here. Started working on a new song, and I'm not going to play it, but I did. It is it's gospel in orientation, and it's called Unafraid, and it had me preoccupied. I could barely drive from Indianapolis to St. Louis yesterday, and it just came to me. And I'll play a little bit of the chorus because this is all I have. Something. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, it's afraid, Lord, I'm going to have to do something to make that a little less kind of common sounding. But I think it's going to be a good one. And it probably sounds a little bit too much like another song right now, but I'll figure it out. But and I was thinking, isn't that a sentiment? Isn't that a place that we all kind of want to be, is unafraid? But I thought, wait a minute now. How am I going to write this song? How is this going to really make sense to the believers and the non-believers? Because I want to speak to everybody. I want to speak to everybody because no matter what your belief, we still have to deal with fear. But yet in Christianity, you're taught to fear God. But yet there's also these moments to where you have faith and you're fearless, and you can rise to your best potential. So I'm having a lot of trouble working all that out. Now wait a minute, which is it? Do we fear God? Do we walk on eggshells that we not stand out too much to our Creator? That we not believe in ourselves? That we not capitalize and exploit our own bounty, our own talents? Or are we fearless and just go for it? I think the key to it, where all that comes together, is to do it without conceit and to do it without ego, and to say, I am talented or I am beautiful, whatever the case is, and I am grateful for this talent. In other words, the blessing, if you call it a blessing, and let's just call it, if you don't believe in God or whatever, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. But it is a blessing. It is a wonderful gift to be talented. But I really think that talent and the blessing is ours to lose. You can develop it and make it better, but it is ours to lose. And that's what I'm going to talk about. That's what I'm going to explore in this song. So I'm going to play one more song and say goodbye. This hasn't been my most fluid show, but it has been. It has illustrated how my mind, my circuitous mind works a little bit. Let me get a little bit of interestingness in the sound here. When the truth is found to be lies, and all the joy within you dies, don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Don't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Your head is all full of dread. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Don't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Your eyes may look like you. Your head, oh, I don't know where it is. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Don't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Tears are running down your vest, and your friends, baby, you treat them like a guest. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Wouldn't you love somebody to love? Won't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Love. To love. To love. To love. All right, just find somebody to love business. Well, it's easier said than done. But you always have yourself, you know. And even just recently, I would have put myself voluntarily into a funk because I couldn't get through a song like I did earlier. And I would say to myself, I knew better than to start that song. But I'm sick of listening to that voice. I'm sick of listening to that voice that says, you could have done better. I'm gonna do better. I'm tired of those shackles. So sometimes you just have to have a little exorcism ceremony and just say, whoever it is acting like you're trying to do me good, I don't want you anymore. I've got this. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You gotta find somebody to love. All right, enough preaching for the morning, enough playing. Walter Parks, let's go have some pancakes. Hey, I wanted to tell you about I've come from I came back today after having been gone a better part of a week, and there was new soap in my soap tray, and this is from a lady that I met in Tuscaloosa. And Margot ordered a bunch of her soap. She custom makes soap. It's called the Left Hand Soap Company, and it's all natural ingredients. And the only reason I knew about this soap is that when I played in Tuscaloosa a couple of years back, there was normally you expect a deli tray and all that sort of thing in your dressing room. And I'll tell you this, if you're presenting concerts, don't put any deli trays out. Nobody wants a deli tray. This the last thing you want to eat is anything on a deli tray before or after you play music. But what they did put down that was very interesting on the table in the dressing room was beard oil. Now that's something a performer can use, is beard oil. And I thought, this is the best, second only to when I was a young man and I was helping to present concerts at the University of Georgia, and we presented Dolly Parton, and in her heyday, in the late 70s, she was doing 9 to 5 and all that stuff. On her rider, her only request was a pitcher of water. And she had filled the Coliseum that night in Athens, Georgia, and all she requested of us, and of course we gave her more than that, but was a pitcher of water. But here comes this lady named who runs this Left Hand Soap Company, and she's got beard oil. I think she did a little bit of research and just saw that I looked like I stepped out of the Civil War. So she had beard oil ready for me, and I'm telling you, that show went well, better than well, as they all do now for me in Tuscaloosa because of the beard oil. And my point is, she gave a little bit of herself away, and now I'm a customer of hers. And she keeps me clean, even though I'm here in St. Louis and she's in Tuscaloosa. But check these folks out. They do make beard oil for the bearded young people. What are they called? The hipsters. She's big on the beard oil, but she also does these natural soaps. And I'm going to tell you what's inside of this soap. It's not anything from horses or any of that stuff. Saponified. Well, that's an interesting adjective. Sapon is like a soap in French. Saponified olive. Well, you can't see this. Well, you can see it because we're no longer on the radio. Saponified olive. I love that. It's a good band name. Coconut and castor oils, botanicals, and essential oils. And there's a picture of the devil. And she says, "Go get dirty." That's her motto. Left Hand Soap Company. Y'all can order from her, lefthandsoapcompany.com, if you ever feel inclined. But tell her we sent you. She's not. She don't even know I'm talking about her. I just love these homemade things. Walter Parks, coming to you from St. Louis. See you next week.